that comes into many deaths. When you talk about enlightenment, you know, enlightenment isn't really an end to be all to everything. It's a beginning into something else. So I've had near-death experiences in my life as well. But I don't really, you know, that is all part, we're all going to eventually die of something. Whether it be, you know, like the whole mystery of what's going on in your body and not knowing. I could be sitting here now and have cancer moving through my body and not knowing it. Eventually, in another year from now, I could be dead. It's a mystery unto ourselves. We have no idea. But many deaths are also many enlightenments. And people can experience that in all different realms of existence. So, you know, in essence, traumatic, whether you're young or old or in the middle of your life and going through all these things, we have to die many times to our ideas and our beliefs. And for those ideas and those beliefs, we have to find new strength. So in other words, you start on new grounds, which is what you're finding on. So your experience was physical, emotional, social, and spiritual. So, you know, at a very young age, you got hit hard. But, you know, Ben could be walking down the street, or Jen could be walking down the street, and there could be some person there, and you make the wrong turn, and you walk the wrong place, and there's some gang members that need to initiate themselves, and they got a gun to Ben's head, and he's at the moment before his death. You know, maybe his skills and his abilities, or her skills and her abilities, will allow them to overcome it, to go, but there it is. There's reality facing you. Well, that's enlightenment. You know, at that point, you're never more alive, because you realize how precious life is, you know, when it's going to go. And some people at that point, or not even at that point, will take their lives, and we'll get into suicide and stuff, and the reason why people do that down the line. But everything, what you're experiencing here, and doesn't have to be so harsh. You know, it doesn't have to be like, okay, this is an experience, but this is an experience that has passed, and now it's something you need to grow and move on from. So it could be like whatever your experience may be, and whatever your experience may be in your life, the different things that we have to sense, the different ego centers that we have to face, the different fear that we have to face. When you get through that, when you move past that realm, then that's what I call mini enlightenments. I don't believe in one master all enlightenment. I believe enlightenment to how you're experiencing your life now is a journey that you're moving through. And this is all about evolving. So, you know, the near-death experiences that I've had were, you know, dealing with violent situations or medical situations or, you know, growing from where it's all about where you are and where you're going to. And not feeding back into that, using that as a building ground, because that again in you now is a scar. But it doesn't have to be a scar. It can be an open wound. And you can carry that open wound all your life. Eventually, it has to heal. So even though it heals, you're still carrying the experience of that scar. And what you carry should be the experience of what you've experienced. And maybe through that you can help others who have experienced the same thing, or even somebody that's something that's more abstract, like somebody that got their throat cut on the street and survived it. Like I was just reading an article about this one gang member that shot these 4 kids and sexually assaulted the other one, but she lived. She lived through it, and she was able to identify this, and all this drama is going on, and the guy's now going to jail for the rest of his life. I think the judge gave him 225 years in jail, something like that. And it was an atrocity. You know, what he did was wrong, and that's when you come into the ideas of black and white, right and wrong, which opens up a whole other philosophical journey. But I think we all have our mini deaths, you know, and it doesn't have to just be something that is just dealing so physically. It can be something that is dealing internally, mentally. You know, like when you die, when you die to an idea or to a goal or it's something that you wanted to achieve in your life, sometimes you have to be able to let that go. That has to die, and you have to, in a sense, have a death meditation, because when you realize that a death meditation is kind of, you go into your room, you sit down, and you're dead. So you realize that everything has disappeared. You're gone. So the phone can ring, you have bills coming in, your car needs gas, you have problems here, but it's all gone. Because none of it matters anymore, because you're on a different journey. And in a sense, if you take that and you use that philosophy, that strategy to things in your life, you realize that there's a point where you reach this point. Now you have to move on from that point. So that brings you into another state of enlightenment. It's not the end of all, it's the beginning. Where you're progressing from one level of understanding to another. So even though that experience happened to you at a very young age, and everybody has these different experiences, in different ways in their life. Ideas, disappointments, and some people live within their disappointments, and some people move on from them. And that's what I call many enlightenments. Moving from one level of understanding to another, and using the wounds, we'll say, as they heal, the scars, as your experiences to grow on, but not feeding back into them. Not living in them, but, becoming more from them. Evolving. And that's many enlightenments, moving from one chakra to the next chakra to the next chakra of understanding, metaphorically speaking. One room to the next room to the next. Because every room you enter, you've got to start tripping and falling. Until there's more light. You've got to trip over the furniture. You've got to trip over things because there's things in that room in your mind, that you're just not used to. And you trip over because you just don't see it. And the more light that comes in the room, the more you get familiar with what's going around you. So we need to stop now so I can pour some tea.